Hello and welcome to Literary Black Girl. I'm your host, Radio Free Kylie, and this is our first episode. And I have for you a wee video essay on selling sunset. Let's get into it. Chelsea Lazkani was the it girl of season 9 of Netflix's reality show Selling Sunset, the only visibly black woman in the cast and Oppenheim group brokerage. She comes into this season posting a post-divorce glow-up, determined to focus on her business, herself, and her close circle of friends, which is Chriselle Staus and Emma Hernan. Season 8 of the show closed with her reeling from the news that her husband had been spotted cheating on her at an LA hotel. And somehow, Brie Tiesi, Blackfisher extraordinaire, and her primary foe on the show had been the one to bring that salacious bit of information to camera via her friend and fellow realtor, Amanda, whose last name is irrelevant. Brie claimed that she was just trying to do the right thing by Chelsea as a fellow woman. However, the question looms, if that was her sole intent, why not just call her instead of bringing it to camera? At the end of season 7, Chelsea had apologized for sharing her opinions about the Nick Cannon of it all, even though they are shared by, I would wager, the majority of Black America, to her face and so transparently. And while we did see her bonding with a new office hopeful who Brie was somehow oddly and intensely antagonistic towards, in the reunion, we also witness a moment where Chelsea comes to Brie and seems to be really trying to reach a point of neutrality. I had thought that Chelsea had put the beef with her fellow coworker, Mary Bonet, to bed, but it seems that Mary had spent the entire off season determined to maintain an issue with Chelsea, which spilled into the next season of the show. Season 9 primarily focuses on Mary's beef with Chelsea and the factions in the Oppenheim group that arise as a result. As someone who has watched every single season of Selling Sunset since it premiered in 2019, I have yet to see what exactly it is that Chelsea did to Mary to warrant this level of vitriol from the very beginning. I would hazard a guess that it is because Christine, OG Selling Sunset villain extraordinaire, brought Chelsea into the O group. And by season 5, when Chelsea joined the show, Mary and Christine's beef had been deeply entrenched. Regardless, I literally have not seen anything that has happened on camera, at least, that would warrant the pointed vendetta that Mary has against Chelsea. This is an all too common saga that has played out with Black women and their white women colleagues in the workplace since we were allowed entry into said workplace. Our very existence is a problem. It doesn't matter that we're overqualified for the job. Our ability to perform is immediately challenged. In fact, Chelsea is the only realtor in the history of the show, at least, who had to sell a house to prove herself and earn her position in the O group. Multiple new agents have joined the show since Chelsea, and none of them have been given those same terms. While Chelsea excels and becomes one of, if not the highest earning agents in the brokerage, this seems to put another target on her back. She is damned if she does, damned if she don't. In season 8, Bree is peeved that Chelsea was given a $10 million listing while she is given a $5 million listing, even though the brokerage owner, Jason Oppenheim, tells her that it's because she's gotten off to a slower start as a newer agent with the group. This, to Bree, couldn't possibly be true. She seemed to think that she should be cut some slack for returning to work 6 weeks postpartum as a first time mom. And while I don't think that anyone should have to go back to work 6 weeks after giving birth, Bree's circumstances are unique in that she is notably Nick Cannon's 10th or 11th baby mama, Johnny Manziel's ex-wife, and seems to have already been doing well for herself before joining the show and the brokerage. She returned to work because that is when the show was filming and she wanted to be on the show. She didn't have to return to work and risk losing her job. She's an independent contractor. And I think that's an important point of clarification. It also didn't matter that Chelsea herself was also a mother of 2 young children and had been hustling and working hard to reach the elevated status that she had achieved in the esteem of their bosses. In Bree's mind, Chelsea had something that she deserved more than her. That Bree deserved more than Chelsea. Bree repeatedly makes it a point to level judgment at Chelsea's lifestyle and mothering throughout season 8 and the fallout of revealing Chelsea's husband's infidelity. She implies that Chelsea is going out all of the time and doesn't know how to stay home and tend to her family, and maybe that is why her husband stepped out on her. Any womanhood-based solidarity that Bree claimed to want to offer Chelsea ended as soon as it became clear that Chelsea was critically examining the circumstances which brought this to our TV screens. And even as Chelsea is skeptical and frustrated with Bree's involvement in the situation, she manages to somehow keep her composure in a manner that reminds me a lot of Alandria Carthen's firm but gracious response to her former Love Island castmate, Huda Mustafa, and boyfriend Louis Russell's amusement at someone calling her the N-word on a live stream. I think the fact that Chelsea just refused to engage with Bree any longer is part of what kept Chelsea's name in Bree's mouth all season long. Which brings us to the odd enemy of my enemy is my friend pairing of Mary and Bree in season 9. Together, the two of them keep a beef that Chelsea herself does nothing much to perpetuate alive in every single episode of the newest season. While both of these women are conflict avoidant AF, when actually confronted, they loved to talk shit about Chelsea in nearly every one of their scenes, whether together or in confessionals. Enter Flowergate. After Mary is dramatically burgled and robbed during the season, Chelsea decides to send her a modest, for LA, bouquet of flowers, which, unbeknownst to her, arrives while Mary is filming in her home with Bree. When Mary realizes that the flowers, sent with a warm and genuine note, which I'll overlay here, were from Chelsea, she immediately crashes out. Storms outside and confronts production. She accuses them of working with Chelsea to make sure that the flowers were delivered on camera while she was filming. Production immediately denies this. And in an aside, do we remember the floral display that Christine sent to Heather for her bachelorette when Christine was not invited to said bachelorette that were performatively sent on camera? Anyway, Mary does not care. And she refuses to believe that what production said is true. And then we see Bree dramatically taking up the flowers, taking them outside, and throwing them in the trash can. Chelsea, again, it seemed, is damned if she does and damned if she don't. In the dinner, capitalized, of the season, which somehow topped Girls Giving in episode 2, Mary again accuses Chelsea of disingenuously sending the flowers during filming because the rest of the women had just sent a text. And if she had wanted to do something so genuine, she could have just done what everyone else has done. Chelsea reminds her firmly that 1, they don't text. 2, you don't get to decide how someone shows you care. 3, she doesn't need to send flowers to get camera time. Like, I have to leave my notes. It makes 0 sense to claim that Chelsea sent the flowers for camera time when A, if Mary herself had not told us that the flowers were from Chelsea, we would not have known. And if Mary is so antagonistic towards Chelsea, hates her so much, and thought that she was genuinely trying to have a moment for cameras, have a moment for cameras right there with that flower delivery, you could have taken away all of that power by simply not saying who the flowers were from. But instead, if Chelsea had wanted a moment for cameras, you gave it to her right then and there, babe. Right then and there. Back to my notes. Chelsea reminds Mary, I don't need to do that for the cameras. They're going to get this mug regardless. And both Chrishell and Emma chime in that they had talked to Chelsea about wanting to send flowers and that Chelsea had meant it genuinely. And Mary continues to refuse to see reason. At this point, I think that the editing room had to have gotten involved, and there are a lot of rumors online right now that Jason was very heavily flexing his EP credit with the final edit of this season, because what happens next is that we see Chelsea tell Mary, you should have listened to your friends because this ain't gonna look good for you. Cut to Mary abruptly standing up from the table, mouth agape in like shock, speechless. And then she's storming out of the private dining room. Jason is telling the cameras to come down. And while the rest of the cast, except for Chelsea, Chrishell, and Emma, all leave, chaotically storming out of the room after Mary. This kicks off the Mary as Karen, the Mary Karen plotline, when she dramatically implies that she is so shaken by the dinner and that she doesn't feel good or happy in the office anymore because they've gotten away from the core group of people that were there in the beginning. This is such a transparent dog whistle that Chelsea is somehow a threat to Mary, and that it would be so much better if Jason, who is notably Mary's ex and boss, and he's also the ex and boss of like a third of the women in the office. But it would be so much better if Jason, who is also a vocal third in Mary's marriage, could just make things how they used to be, i.e. fire the black girl. It is rumored, again, online, that during a unaired scene at some point in the season, Chelsea sits down with Mary and Jason and calls them out on their racism, and that Jason used his EP credit to make sure that that footage was cut and not shown. We will never know what did or didn't happen in this conversation unless Chelsea chooses to tell us or Netflix airs the footage, which I doubt they ever will. We do know from Chrishell's comments on Instagram that there was supposed to be a finale scene that was not filmed because Mary claimed that she couldn't be in a room with Chelsea, that she was afraid of Chelsea. Regardless, it's clear that even in her absence, Chelsea can do no right by any of these people. Mary goes so far to have a whole entire breakdown at Bree's Galentine's party when she sees Chelsea's name on a placeholder, on a nameplate. And can we talk about performing for the cameras? The only way that she gets over this breakdown is when Bree literally takes her over to throw the nameplate over the wall, down the hill, off the side of the house. And I need to name that the violence of their hatred of Chelsea grows more and more literal and embodied by the episode. Bree tries her hardest to paint herself as so unbothered, as the bigger person, by inviting everyone in the office, and to paint Chelsea's absence as an indicator of her weakness. She says she doesn't have the balls to show up here. You invited her, babe. She claimed that she couldn't care less, but made sure to shade her in her dinner toast. Chrishell and Emma also decided not to attend this event, but that was also laid at Chelsea's feet. They're only not coming because Chelsea's not coming. Chelsea didn't even come to the party, not just because she had other plans, but also because she wanted to keep the peace, not just for herself, but also for everyone else there. And Bree and Mary still need to metaphorically toss her down a hill to remove all references, all physical manifestations of her from their presence in order to have a good time. Damned if she do, damned if she don't. To be clear, both Mary and Bree's now one-sided issues with Chelsea are rooted in their own anti-Black racism. They figure her into a veritable boogeyman and position her as the root of all of their problems, not just because they need a storyline on the show, but because for them both, she is literally challenging their sense of superiority in the workplace and in life. That the one and only visibly Black woman in this workplace comes in and starts running shit, as we so often do, is taken as a literal and figurative threat. Mary was hailed as the best agent at the O Group, as far as the show was concerned at least, before Chelsea entered the scene and simply started doing her job and outworking her. When Mary couldn't outwork Chelsea, she tried to humble and humiliate her by making an issue of her outfit at their Brokers Open in season 8. It's worth noting that she white woman-tiered her way out of that situation as well, and Chelsea went the way that many of us are forced to do in work settings, which is let it go, show grace, even though the apology itself was half-hearted and clearly, in this case, shown by Mary's commitment to continuing to keep Chelsea's name in her mouth, only for the cameras. Once again, Chelsea was damned if she do and damned if she don't. As I consider Chelsea's time on this show, it seems clear to me that the violence that she was subjected to has been ratcheting up season after season. We start with the covert racism of earn your place here and prove that you belong, to the clear sexualization and objectification of a Black woman's body, to painting a kind gesture as tantamount to a Trojan horse style act of war. And finally, land at literally weaponizing interpersonal relationships to try and get her fired from her job. This is a playbook that is as old as time for Black women. Who amongst us has not experienced some or all aspects of this? It was a kind of blessing for Chelsea that all of this happened on camera for a global television show. What was meant for her downfall became a meal that was prepared for her in the presence of her enemies, because of the witness that we have all been able to bear of her racist mistreatment. And Chelsea, so many Black women see ourselves and our own struggles to just be allowed to do our jobs. across my social media, we are riding for our Nigerian sister. I hope that she knows now more than ever that she is not crazy or misreading a situation. Them white women hate her and they want her gone for no reason other than their own racism. Full stop. Period. We see them, sis. And we will do everything in our power to whack them when and where we can, even if it is in our own little corner of the internet. That is it for episode 1 of Literary Black Girl, hosted by me, Radio Free Kylie. If you enjoyed today's video essay, be sure to like, subscribe, send it to a friend. They're doing hype points or something now, so maybe give me a couple of those. You can find me across socials at Lit Black Girl on TikTok. I don't really post a lot on Instagram, but it's there. I am on Threads. I'll list all of my socials down below. Thank you so much. Leave a comment down below if you also watched this season of Selling Sunset. Let me know what you thought about it, what you thought about how they treated Chelsea, and what the fallout on the internet has been. I know for sure that they are whacking Jason, Mary, Bree, and even Amanda, rightfully so, in them Instagram comments, and it's what they deserve. I might do a special episode reading some of my favorite comments. Anyway, be blessed. Tell somebody you love them. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.